Kanye West, he would be facing sex trafficking charges if it was anywhere.
Gene Deal has recently named 5 major celebrities he claims had close ties to Diddy, including Kanye West, Jay-Z, and Usher. These remarks have sparked renewed debate over why such figures were absent from 50 Cent's documentary in the first place. According to Deal, the omissions raise questions about how much was left out and why. He says he plans to address each celebrity and their alleged connections one by one. The first name he highlighted in his latest interview was Usher, referencing past comments Usher himself has made about being exposed to things at a very young age that he shouldn't have been around. To Deal, that statement alone carries significant weight, fueling broader concerns about the environments young artists were placed in and who is responsible for protecting them.
It's probably a lot of stuff. Look at Usher. What Usher say? I seen some things I shouldn't have been seeing at that age. What does that tell you? That he's seen some things, he was around some things when he was young that he shouldn't have been at a Diddy party. So that's going to show you that there are certain things that are happening that's going on that here it is, this kid was saying he shouldn't even seen it and been.
It suggests Usher may have been exposed to environments that were inappropriate for someone his age. Gene Deal has made a startling allegation about Usher's time around Diddy, claiming troubling situations occurred behind the scenes. According to his account, one such incident allegedly escalated to the point where Usher was taken to the hospital, claims that remain unproven and disputed.
And I felt a certain way when Usher got on Shay Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms, but he got on Shay Shay and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him and everything. You know what I'm saying? About the business. Right? I know, and people know, that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you gonna give him a pass?
Gene Deal said he felt uneasy after hearing Usher speak positively about Diddy during a recent interview, where Usher credited him for teaching him the business. Deal argues that people who were around at the time are aware of a serious incident involving Diddy and Usher that allegedly ended with Usher being taken to the hospital. He emphasizes that he wants Usher himself to tell that story, noting that Usher has hinted at it in the past without ever going into full detail. Because of that history, Deal questions why Usher would later publicly praise or defend someone he claims mistreated him during his youth, raising broader questions about grooming, power, and silence in the industry.
Frame you on something. Remember Usher? We was at the Swiss Hotel. Puff had Kim in the room. Had one of Keith Sweat's baby mothers in the big room outside the master bedroom. He came outside in his robe. She gave him a fellatio right there. His back was turned to me. She gave him a fellatio. You knocked on the door. I came and opened the door for you. Puff went in the room. You came in the room and kissed that girl dead in her mouth. Now I'm telling that because you taking up for somebody that you know and a lot of more people know didn't do you right when you was at Diddy.
Gene Deal then recalled a specific moment from that era to explain why the issue resonates so strongly with him. He says he personally witnessed behavior that convinced him the environment around Diddy was inappropriate, particularly for young artists who were still learning the industry and trying to belong. Deal further claims that one of the most serious allegations, which he says was deliberately left out of the documentary, involves an incident he alleges was so severe it resulted in Usher being hospitalized. These are Deal's assertions, not established facts, but He argues their omission speaks volumes about what was left unexplored.
Executive from the industry back in Harlem. I heard it from some music executives back in Harlem. And I'm not going to speak on their name. They doing programs and everything like that. And they may be doing something. They may speak on it themselves. But I heard it from some music executives.
Where did you hear it?
Bro, you know how people be talking and we was around some people, something like that. And then some people might say, yo, I don't F with that dude. And at the time, I didn't know who the F Usher was. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those type of situations. And when people say, yo, man, I don't F with them niggas. I'm getting out that industry and everything like that. Puff sent this little kid to the hospital. How he sent him to the hospital? Man, Nick was bleeding from the butt. And that's what was said. But I didn't even have a name for the kid at the time. Then you heard, and that's what happened.
He said this illustrates how certain things were happening in plain sight, with some people aware, while silence remained the industry norm. Gene Deal then shifted to what he says he personally witnessed involving Diddy and Jamie Foxx, stressing that he can only speak to what he claims to have seen firsthand. He recalled first meeting Jamie Foxx on a tour bus during a trip he barely remembers, describing the interaction as friendly but not indicative of a close relationship. Deal then went on to allege that he later learned of disturbing behavior involving the two and women, claims that remain unproven and disputed, and which he presents as his own assertions rather than established facts.
It was a tour bus, and Puff was in the back, and there was a lot of girls in the front, and Jamie was just real touchy-feely, but Puff didn't come out the back. I don't know if Puff came out the back of the tour bus. You understand? And Jamie went back there for a minute or so, then he just came out, and he was all touchy-feely with the girls, and I'm looking at this dude like, wow, this dude kind of like touchy-feely with these girls, and he don't even know them. They know him because he's Jamie Foxx, but he didn't know them. So I don't really know their real relationship or how close they was. I didn't meet Jamie Foxx and really have a conversation.
What intensifies the controversy, according to commentators, is Jamie Foxx's long-standing reputation for partying with Diddy, including past remarks where he jokingly described showing Diddy how to party on a budget. In one resurfaced clip, Foxx made an offhand comment referencing the FBI being around Diddy, an admission some viewers now interpret differently in hindsight. These interpretations remain speculative, but they've fueled online debate about whether Diddy was viewed as unusually protected during that era. Gene Deal then turned to another figure he claims was noticeably absent from the documentary, Ja Rule. According to Deal, their story began in Atlanta during a tour stop, when he accompanied Diddy into a specialty adult store. Deal says it was his first time ever entering a place like that with Diddy and that he was struck by how comfortable Diddy appeared in the environment, an anecdote he shares to illustrate patterns he says stood out to him at the time, not as proof of wrongdoing.
With Puff, I didn't know he even did that, but we was in Atlanta. So when we went to the door, they gave him a brown paper bag, so I guess this is a place that he was used to and people knew him there. So when they gave him a brown paper bag, Puff was just going around the store, just picking items off the shelves and stuff like that, putting them in the brown paper bag. So then, I was behind him and no Diddy, but I was about 3 feet behind him, you know what I'm saying, as he was putting stuff and putting it in his bag and stuff like that. So there's one particular place that he was put up there, he had to reach up kind of high and get it. So he just started pulling things out. And he was pulling a lot of them off there. So I was like, so I looked up and the thing said butt plugs. When he walking down the thing said butt plugs, I said, hey yo, just to mess with him. I said, hey yo, what are you getting these for? And he said, can I do my shopping by myself? I said, yes, you can. And I waited up at the register for him, because they had the big counter up there. So when he came to the counter, I said, yo, I'm finna see what this one this mofo is putting in his bag. Because I know he gonna have to take everything and put it on the counter so the dude could count it, right? My man, when he came there, he gave the dude a wad of hundreds like this. You know what I'm saying? He gave him a wad of 100 and just put it up there. The dude ain't even, you know what I'm saying?
After that, they boarded a private jet and flew to North Carolina for a show, with Ja Rule traveling alongside them. Gene Deal claims that during the flight, Diddy repeatedly encouraged Ja Rule to target Jay-Z musically, pushing him toward escalating their rivalry. Deal presents this as his own recollection of events, shared to illustrate the dynamics he says he witnessed at the time, not as established fact.
How Ja was talking about if it wasn't for him, that Jay wouldn't be the artist he was. He got him started. You know, he wrote certain things and stuff like that to put him out there because, you know, back in the day, nobody was even effing with Jay like that. So, but Puff was trying to, he was adamant about Ja.
Did Diddy want to ignite a war with Jay-Z? It's a question Gene Deal raises, but does not answer definitively. When they arrived at the hotel, the group was staying in a large suite where people were eating, talking, and socializing. Later, according to Deal, Diddy, Ja Rule, and several women went into a separate room. Deal says that before entering, Diddy gave him one specific instruction: do not allow anyone else into that room.
I don't know what they were doing in there. I didn't give a shit. But Puff told me, Gene, do not let nobody come in this room. Don't let nobody come in this room. So, hour or so went by, whatever like that. Time went by. The doorbell rang. And it was this dude at the door saying that he was Ja's cousin. And I was like, he said, I'm here for Ja Rule. I said, who you? He said, I'm his cousin and everything like that. He said, I said, but yo, he busy right now. I'm telling the dude that he's busy. You know, the dude is talking about, yo, but I want to talk to him. I said, yo, bro, they don't want to be bothered. You know, I'm trying to, you know, tell this kid, yo, they don't want to be bothered, bro. You know what I'm saying? He said, yo, but that's my cousin. You know what I'm saying? I said, well, listen here, bro. They're in a room. They don't want to be bothered. You know, and you can see that there's only one room going back that way when you come to the room. You can see it's only one room. So then it's a piano, it's a couch, it's a room right there. And he talking about he was going through the room. I said, yo, bro, Jesus Christ had to come down here and take the breath out of my body before you go in that room. You understand? Next thing you know, I grabbed him and we started. It wasn't no wrestling thing like that because he couldn't handle it at the time. He confronted to all his friends because he didn't hit me up on Instagram. He could tell his friends all he want to. But that, if Puff and Ja tell you the story, that nigga was upside the piano. You understand? So now, Ja and Puff run out. They butt the naked, bruh. And they was grabbing towels. You understand? They was grabbing towels. And then Puff was like, yo, Gene, what's going on? Ja was like, yo. He said, that's my cousin. I was like, yo, bruh. He tried to get in the room, and I wasn't letting him get in the room, bruh. And then Puff looked at Ja like this. You know what that looked like? He said. And then Ja said, you don't want to be up in that room because there was a whole lot of freaking shit going on.
Gene Deal added that Diddy was known for placing people in situations designed to influence their decisions. He believes that night was about steering Ja Rule in a specific direction in his career. Whether Ja Rule will ever publicly speak about what happened remains an open question. Deal then turned his attention to Jay-Z, explaining why he believes Jay-Z and Diddy were far closer than public statements suggest. According to Deal, their bond wasn't rooted in friendship but in business, claiming they were aligned around the same objective, which he alleges was preventing East Coast rap from rising back to dominance. These claims remain disputed, but they continue to fuel debate about power, strategy, and influence behind the scenes.
And that was to destroy East Coast rap. And what I mean by that, and I know people gonna like, yo, Gene is out of his mind and everything like that. Check this out, brother. Is that New York rappers was getting 80 to 100, 800 to 1.2 million, some larger than that, and sign with labels back then. And they was getting a lot of money to make albums and records. When they had guys down south that these labels was paying $250,000, $300,000
on record deals, and these guys was bringing back platinum albums and everything like that. So what they had to do was they had to keep New York rappers down. That's one reason, other than the Irv Gotti shit that 50 was going through and the poison they was putting in about 50, he had to go elsewhere to California or with Jay and not with Dre and Eminem to get a deal. They did not want East Coast rappers to get big. They were suppressing all new artists that was coming out of New York. Jay and Diddy was doing that. That's why when I heard your story, because I knew this for a long time, but when I heard Dame Dash that Jay wouldn't sign off on nothing, Jay wouldn't do this and Jay would that, because he couldn't let a Cameron blow up. He couldn't let an East Coast rapper like Beanie Siegel blow up. Because him and Diddy was giving that deal, we got to keep these East Coast rappers down. Because down south rappers
Gene Deal argues that the industry had a structural problem. Labels were hesitant to continue paying massive advances to New York artists when Southern artists were generating higher returns with smaller budgets. Instead of addressing the system, Deal claims some industry figures chose to hold New York artists back. He cites this as one reason 50 Cent struggled early in his career. Facing label politics and negative rumors, he reportedly had to leave New York to find real opportunities. That's how he connected with people outside the East Coast rather than rising through his own region, which Deal says partly explains 50 Cent's long-standing animosity toward both Jay-Z and Diddy.
To destroy the East Coast rap. And then along came a somebody that was about to bring East Coast rap back. And there's nothing they could do about it. And this kid was finna put East Coast on the map just like Big did. And this was after 50. And that was Papa Smoke. Pop Smoke. That was Pop Smoke. Let me just tell you something, man. 2 weeks before Pop Smoke died, K Slay, who heard this shit from the industry, that no shit that happens in the industry, set Pop Smoke and his people down and gave them a jewel. He said, y'all gonna have to protect him with his life, with y'all life. Y'all gonna have to protect him with y'all life. Because he know Pop Smoke was about to bring rap back to the East Coast. And what happened? Pop Smoke ended up dead. Now, I ain't trying to say that's some kind of conspiracy. Maybe some other shit was going on. This, that, and the third. But brother, he had that conversation with K Slay 2 weeks before he was murdered. They didn't want rap to be back.
Gene Deal concluded by saying he believes the industry never truly wanted East Coast rap to regain its dominance. In his view, whenever it came close, something always seemed to halt its rise. He acknowledges that this isn't proof, but says it's a pattern he has observed over many years. From Deal's perspective, Jay-Z and Diddy were far closer than public statements suggest. While Jay-Z's lawyer has claimed the two were not really friends, Deal argues that their public interactions tell a different story, one that reflects a level of closeness few now want to acknowledge.
They wasn't playing basketball. They wasn't playing baseball. They wasn't playing football. And they wasn't playing hockey or soccer for Diddy to come on stage, pat him on his ass, and then make the statement to people in the world that can't nobody call me Sean but Jay-Z. Now, I don't know what kind of statement, and I can't say, I wish I could say half a homo,
but I know I can't say it. But I don't know what kind of half a homo that is. And you trying to say that you're not close to somebody. You coming on stage, patting them on their ass, and then you making a broad statement to the public. Can't nobody call me Sean but Sean Carter. And I heard Jay-Z said the same thing.
Gene Deal also claims that their relationship extended beyond business. According to him, Jay-Z and Diddy joked about personal matters with each other and, at one point, even had matching white girlfriends. These are Deal's observations and recollections, not verified facts, but he presents them to illustrate the closeness he believes existed between the two.
So close that they had matching white girls together. Because when they used to see each other, they used to say, yo, how your skinny white girl doing? He'd be like, yo, how your skinny white girl doing? So, I guess that's a certain type of closeness.
I ain't know anything about that, man. I ain't know about, Jay touching his, ass. I gotta go see the video. I ain't hear about that.
Come on, man. Everybody's seen that. 50 even pointed it out. Excuse me. When they was in ATL on stage. Remember when 50 bum rushed the stage with them?
Yeah, I think I recall that.
When Puff came on stage, first thing he did was pat Jay-Z on that. But I forgot. That's your favorite rapper.
Hey, him and Pocket's 1A, 1B. But what's your issue with Jay, man? I ain't know you had an issue with him.
I'm never a fan of somebody that I was gonna knock out. And then we was at the it was me, him, Ashley Kushner, Puff and them. We was all at the next game together, and he didn't even remember none of it. I don't expect him to remember, but I remember. You understand? And he told Puff, he said, yo, Puff, yo, I heard about that Gene right there. That Gene got a mean left. Oh, you said that Gene a knocking out. Then he gonna come up to me and say, man, you look like, man, you a tearing the ass up. And I said to himself, I said, yo, no Diddy. Pause. Whatever. I said, he don't even remember. I was about to knock him the F out. He didn't even remember. He said to me to Laura. That's how these guys are. Man.
Gene Deal explains that many industry figures operate within a bubble, creating situations, stirring drama, and then moving on because they live on a completely different level from everyone else. He says that mindset was common at the time, and he suggests it could eventually catch up with them. Turning to perhaps the biggest name of all, Kanye West, Deal points out that before Diddy's recent legal troubles, Kanye publicly criticized him in interviews. Yet now, Kanye is suddenly back in Diddy's orbit, even wearing clothing signaling support. Deal frames this as typical industry behavior, where people switch sides when it benefits them, speculating that perhaps Kanye is trying to protect himself. Deal also recounts an incident described by Jane during a trip to Las Vegas, where she and Kanye, along with his wife and others, went out to shows and dinners, and what happened next, he says, was horrifying. What stood out most to Deal was the timing. One day Kanye's name comes up in court, and the next, he's physically present supporting Diddy. To Deal, it looked calculated. Over time, as wealth and power grew, Deal claims relationships fractured, and Kanye began lashing out at those he felt betrayed him. This, Deal suggests, makes Kanye's court appearances earlier this year appear more performative than substantive. It raises the question of whether his presence truly helps Diddy, especially considering Kanye's history of controversial statements. And it also invites a bigger question: why did 50 Cent choose not to address these celebrities in the documentary? Let us know what you think in the comments.